What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Surfing the Stream. I am Matt, and today we are kicking off a brand new series where I am reviewing every single Evil Dead movie leading up to Evil Dead Burn, which comes out next month. And of course, there's only one place to truly start, and that is with the movie that started it all, Sam Raimi's 1981 horror classic, The Evil Dead. Now, I will be completely honest with y'all. This is my second time ever watching this series all the way through. I do remember a few years ago when we were doing our Possession horror movies in review series, and I watched this for the first time. I liked it, didn't love it. It was more so like I respected the movie more than I actually liked it, and it just wasn't for me. If you've been following the channel for any length of time, if you know me personally, then you know that I am not a fan of comedy in my horror movies. I don't care for it. I think most of the time the comedy in horror is just it's like slapstick and silly. So I didn't really care for the comedic beats of this series when I first watched it a few years ago. So going back, I was curious to know if, okay, I've seen it once. I know what to expect. Can I just take this for what it is and just try to enjoy it and not take it so seriously? And I am proud to admit that I did not take it so seriously this time, and I absolutely love this movie. Now, this is one of those movies that has become so influential over the years that it's easy to forget just how insane this thing must have felt when it originally came out in 1981. Because while we have seen countless movies copy that Evil Dead formula, there really wasn't much like it back in 81. This movie looks cheap, the budget is low, it has a shitty quality to the film, and it just works. But somehow that's exactly what makes all of this work. That old school low budget look adds this extra layer of charm to it that I don't think you could recreate even if you tried nowadays. Everything about this movie feels raw. The creepy visuals of the woods, the unsettling close-up shots, the gross practical effects, the weird camera angles, that haunting score, everything just combines together to create an atmosphere that feels much bigger than the actual budget itself. The movie almost feels like it was found in some abandoned cabin somewhere, and we're just watching this found footage movie. I love that aspect to it. It has this dirty, grimy quality to it that makes everything feel uncomfortable. And honestly, I think the fact that this movie looks older than it actually is helps it tremendously. I know some movies you go back and you're like, ooh, that movie didn't age well at all. Look, this movie, it's rough looking, okay? There's a grainy image quality throughout the entire movie. The film just looks rough overall, and that makes the entire experience, to me, feel more authentic to what is the source material here. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely some technical flaws here and there. There's some shots that aren't completely in focus. There's some editing issues throughout, which I will say the editing feels so much better in the very beginning of the movie where it's really tight. They're quick shots. It doesn't really lean on a shot for too long. And then the back half of the movie, it's like they were just like, screw it. We're just going to have long shots of facial expressions. And that does add to the charm and to the comedic aspect of this movie to me. But I think that it also hurts the movie in terms of pacing when we are continuing to have long shots on these characters. But all in all, there are moments where you can clearly tell that they did not have the resources of a major Hollywood production behind it. And I think those are valid criticism. Whether you like that aspect of it or not, which I do, I think those are criticisms that you have to bring up about this movie. But it's also hard for me to sit here and complain too much about it when the movie practically announces within the first few minutes that they have no budget. It's all part of the package to me. And while some of those limitations show, Raimi always finds ways to turn those limitations into the strengths of the movie. For example, his famous camera shots flying through the woods, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the classic Sam Raimi shot. The camera zips through the forest from the perspective of the demonic force, crashing through the branches, racing towards our characters. Those shots are iconic now. When you think of those shots, you think Sam Raimi's. But when you watch this movie, you realize how creative that idea really was back then. It immediately gives the evil presence a personality, even though you can't physically see it. And honestly, those sequences still hold up incredibly well. One thing that surprised me during the rewatch was the comedy. Now, generally speaking, comedy and horror, again, not my thing. Now, I won't keep beating a dead horse with the comedy and horror aspect that I don't really care for. But when I watched it a few years ago, I don't think I really appreciated what they were going for. Now, spoiler alert for Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 leans more into the comedy than this one. This is more straight up horror with a little bit of comedy in it. So I will say that. But I did find myself this time around appreciating the comedy, the comedic cheesiness of this movie. I appreciate way more now than I did a few years ago when I watched it. And I just found myself laughing at things that I completely overlooked before. Like the scene where they're crossing the bridge. It's a simple thing that the dialogue is cheesy, the acting is cheesy, the entire thing is cheesy. But that's part of the charm of not only this scene, but the movie itself. It's not trying to be some ultra serious prestige horror film. It's chaotic, it's over the top, ridiculous at times, and somehow that just makes it more entertaining to me. But all of that sequence put together, I found myself laughing out loud. And then there's this facial expressions of the characters really lend to the comedy aspects of this movie. So yeah, I overlooked it last time. I focused on it this time around, trying to take it for what it is. I really do appreciate the comedy of Sam Raimi in this movie more than I ever did previously. Now, there's one thing that we do have to discuss, and that is obviously one of the most controversial scenes in movies, period, but specifically Evil Dead, and that is the Cheryl Woods scene. Because whenever the Evil Dead gets discussed, this scene always gets brought up, and for good reason. It's brutal, disturbing. You could probably say that it is completely unnecessary. Sure. Sam Raimi has publicly stated that he regrets including the scene in the movie, and I understand why he has come out and said that. I don't know many mainstream horror movies that have attempted something like that ever since. I know in the Evil Dead remake, they do it again, but I know that Fede Alvarez didn't really want to include it, that he was kind of forced by the producers. But that's a story for later. These films that deal with similar subject matter, like I Spit on Your Grave, those movies come to mind when I see a scene like this. I think when they are included in a horror movie, like obviously those sequences are supposed to hit a certain feeling. And I think this scene is unique in its presentation. I know a lot of people absolutely fucking hate it. Personally, I think it's a difficult scene to watch, and maybe there were ways that it could have been executed differently without being quite so graphic. But at the time, the entire purpose of the scene was to be horrifying and make you uncomfortable. So you're not supposed to enjoy it. You're supposed to feel disturbed. I guess mission accomplished on that aspect. But I would agree that it is probably an unnecessary scene to include in this movie. There was other ways that you could have gone about it, for sure. Once the Deadites finally start showing up, that's when the movie really starts taking off for me. I love Cheryl's transformation. It's the first look at a Deadite that you get in the movie. The whole sequence is creepy and gross, which is among all the other scenes for sure. But this scene was pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. There's something about a character stabbing another character with a number 2 pencil and then immediately turning around and just pimp slapping the fuck out of somebody across the room. I found myself laughing. I absolutely love that sequence. It is probably one of my favorite scenes of the entire movie, and it's purely the comedic aspect of it that I love the most. Now, the introduction of the Deadites perfectly captures what makes Evil Dead special. The movie constantly walks this line between horror and its absurdity. The practical effects are absolutely fantastic. Nowadays, it's probably a little rough, but I will always take practical effects over special effects every day of the week. I mean, you look at The Thing, obviously a lot of it's silly, but I think it is absolutely awesome. Never takes me out of a movie when they use practical effects versus special effects. Makeup looks great. The gore is excessive in all the scenes. So all of it comes together to make a truly disgusting movie at times. And for a movie released in 1981, this thing was pretty extreme, I would have to say. Now, is some of it cheesy? Absolutely. But honestly, the cheesiness makes it better for me. Modern horror sometimes gets so obsessed with realism that it forgets how much fun horror can actually be. The Evil Dead doesn't care. It wants to throw blood everywhere. It wants to make Deadites look disgusting. It wants to gross you out while also simultaneously making you laugh. And that's exactly why it works. Even the ending had me laughing at times when Ash finally destroys the Necronomicon and we get those stop motion decomposition effects. It's impossible not to smile during it. But you know what? I don't give a damn because it's still great nonetheless. It's one of those moments where the imperfections become part of the experience. So, as far as the characters go, I think Bruce Campbell is obviously the clear standout here. Ash is easily the most memorable character in the movie. Now, if I'm being honest, I don't think the performances here are anything extraordinary, and that's true for pretty much the entire cast. If you ask me to describe the personalities of really the female characters specifically, I would struggle to give you much of an answer. Scott is really the only other character here that stands out at all. He's this short-tempered, cocky. If you told me that he was a high school jock, I would absolutely believe you. He's just a jerk overall. But beyond that, these characters aren't exactly deep. So don't expect to get this crazy character work here. But that's not what you go to these movies for. You go to the movies for the Deadites, for the deaths, for everything all packaged together. But with that being said, Ash works because Bruce Campbell brings a natural likability to the role. He's not the chainsaw-handed legend that fans will come to know him as. He's just this well-spoken, regular guy who finds himself trapped in an absolute nightmare, and that's what makes his arc work. At the beginning of the movie, Ash is terrified, kind of a coward at times, doesn't know what to do, doesn't have all the answers, completely overwhelmed by everything that he's witnessing. But as the movie progresses, he adapts, he learns to survive, he learns to fight back. And by the end, you can see the foundation being built for the character that he will eventually become. But overall, guys, The Evil Dead is just one of those movies where the flaws actually become strengths to me. The low budget, the rough filmmaking, the cheesy acting, that over-the-top gore, the bizarre effects, whether it's the practical effects, whether it's the stop-motion effects at the very end, or the makeup. This movie shouldn't work as well as it does, but it all combines into something truly and incredibly unique. It's messy at times, chaotic, it's gross a lot, and it's hilarious. And over 40 years later, it is still one of the most influential horror movies ever made. So if you're looking for a polished horror movie, this probably is not the movie for you. But if you're looking for that raw creativity and a film that helped change the genre forever, The Evil Dead absolutely deserves its legendary status. And you should 1000% make sure that you go see this movie at some point in your life. This is one of those movies that I have on my Letterboxd list of movies to watch before you die. So if you have not seen it, this is where you leave the video, go watch it ASAP, and then come back, leave me a comment down below of what you thought about The Evil Dead. What are y'all's rankings for the entire series? I'm going to review every single movie of the series. After Evil Dead Burn drops, we are going to rank all the movies in one long episode, and I cannot wait to see the brand new Evil Dead movie coming out in July. So yeah, let me know down below what you thought about the OG Evil Dead movie, where it all started. And while you're down there, hit that like, subscribe button. That's really going to help us out, and I would greatly appreciate it if you did that. And make sure you hit that notification bell so that you know when the next review before the Evil Dead series drops. But guys, thank y'all for joining me for this review, and I will catch y'all next time on another one. Laters.